Hello, and welcome to First United Methodist Church, Mason City, Iowa. Today for our hymn time, we're going to focus on Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, a collaboration of Henry van Dyke and Ludwig van Beethoven. I'd like to give you the background of both of those gentlemen. When Henry van Dyke was a great preacher at Williams College, he was so impressed by the surrounding Berkshire Mountains, he wrote, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee," and the next morning handed the manuscript to President Garfield, saying, "Here is a hymn for you. Your mountains were my inspiration. It must be sung to the music of Beethoven's Hymn to Joy." Henry van Dyke was born in Germantown, Pennsylvania. He graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary in 1877 and was ordained in 1879 as a Presbyterian minister. He began his great career as pastor of the United Congregational Church in Newport, Rhode Island. In 1883, he moved to the Brick Presbyterian Church in New York City, where he remained for 17 years and wrote 7 books, his mastery of English creating a vast worldwide following. In 1899, he left the Brick Presbyterian Church to become Murray Professor of English Literature at Princeton, a position he held for 23 years with frequent interruptions. From 1908 to 1909, he was American lecturer at the Sorbonne University in Paris. And in 1913, President Woodrow Wilson appointed Henry van Dyke minister to the Netherlands and Luxembourg, a position he held with distinction for 4 years. During World War I, Van Dyke served as a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Chaplain Corps. It was Van Dyke who was largely responsible for the revision of the Book of Common Prayer, adopted by the Presbyterian Church in 1931. Many honors were bestowed upon Henry van Dyke during his brilliant career. Degrees from numerous universities in the United States, and even one from Oxford University in 1917. There are no better words to sum up Henry van Dyke's thoughts regarding his many hymns than when he wrote, "These verses are simple expressions of common Christian feelings and desires in this present time. Hymns of today that may be sung together by people who know the thought of the age and are not afraid that any truth of science will destroy religion, or any revolution on earth overthrow the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, these hymns are of trust and joy and hope." And the words, "Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, praising thee, their Son above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the dark of doubt away. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the light of day." Verse 2, "All thy works with joy surround thee, earth and heaven reflect thy rays. Stars and angels sing around thee, center of unbroken praise. Field and forest, vale and mountain, blooming meadow, flashing sea, chanting bird and flowing fountain, call us to rejoice in thee." Verse 3, "Thou art giving and forgiving, ever blessing, ever blessed, wellspring of the joy of living, ocean depth of happy rest. Thou our Father, Christ our brother, all who live in love are thine. Teach us how to love each other, lift us to the joy divine." And verse 4, "Mortals join the mighty chorus which the morning stars began. Father love is reigning over us, brother love binds man to man. Ever singing march we onward, victors in the midst of strife. Joyful music lifts us sunward in the triumph song of life." So Van Dyke's words then combined with Beethoven's music. So a bit about Beethoven. The Shakespeare of music. Ludwig van Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany. His father was a highly regarded tenor singing in the service of the Elector of Cologne at Bonn. But his father's drinking problem kept the family poverty-stricken. When Ludwig was only 8 years old, he was playing in public and by the time he was 10, composing music. At the age of 17, the elector sent him to Vienna to study under the great Mozart. But his stay was cut short when, after 3 months, he rushed back to Bonn due to the illness and death of his mother and sister. A fiercely independent person, Beethoven decided to freelance rather than do as most musicians and work for one of the courts of Europe, as did his father and his grandfather. At the age of 22, he left Bonn and settled in Vienna. Here he began his studies in composition from the father of the symphony, Franz Joseph Haydn. In 1801, when only 31 years old, Beethoven wrote to a friend, "For 2 years I've avoided almost all society because I cannot tell people I am deaf." Later that same year, he wrote this statement regarding his music and his relationship with God. "No friend have I must live by myself alone, but I know well that God is nearer to me than to others in my art. So I walk fearlessly with him. I have always known him and understood him. I have no timidity about my music. It can have no ill fate." While Beethoven did not write any hymn music as such, the music for many hymns has been adapted from his larger works, such as that chosen by Van Dyck for "Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee," from the Ode to Joy section of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Without question, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony was the magnum opus of his great career. When in February of 1824 it was performed for the first time, the audience in Vienna greeted it with thunderous applause. However, Beethoven, now totally deaf, could not hear it. Instead, he stood gazing at the orchestra until a musician turned him around. When the audience realized that Beethoven could not hear their applause, they rose from their seats to wave their arms and handkerchiefs. Beethoven, although unable to hear a sound, had created a musical masterpiece. And so now I would like to play on the piano and then the organ, "Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee."